This is Theater Talk with Oogie. Everyone gets asked the same questions, but everybody's story is different.
I am Elizabeth Wislar, and I am in theater, a costume designer, a researcher, a collaborator. I love problem solving, and lately I would also label myself as an instigator. Besides costume design, I really enjoy, I'm now in kind of a second phase of my career where I'm in teaching. And so I spent close to 20 years as a freelance designer working out of Chicago. And I had a very good mentor in undergraduate program that I attended. And I always meant to be that person for somebody else, maybe. I don't know. You know, the hope is there to help somebody. And so teaching is where I am now. And I always meant to do it. It just took me a little bit longer to get to it than some people. Oh, I did not. I came in through the back door. I got a job in the costume shop because I knew how to sew, and I was attending a school that was very expensive, and I needed work, and so I applied for a work study job, and I put on the special skill set down below that I knew how to sew, and which is lucky because I think the only other thing I was qualified for at the time was flipping burgers in the cafeteria. And so my first day I was asked to go down there and interview, and I had trouble finding the backstage of the theater because I honestly didn't know these things existed. And I had grown up going to some community theater or dinner theater in our town with my family, but I never thought about where any of it came from, how it was made, the process leading up to that moment when I saw it. And so it was all a very big surprise for me. And I spent several years working in the costume shop, just quietly doing my thing. Whenever I would overhear conversations about overhire extra work at the area theaters in St. Louis, I always signed up. And so I was one of those people that would stand at the stage door and ask if they needed help unloading a set. I just, whatever work I could get, whatever money I could get. And so I came into theater because it felt like the place that was going to pay me. And it did. And it always did. And I stand by that. You should always be paid for your labor. But about the end of my sophomore year, towards the end, she said to me, "Look, I've been watching you kind of struggle in the fashion and the art program, and like you don't really know what you want, but I know what you can do. So just take me on as your advisor. I'll sign you up for all the right classes, transfer into theater." And so I did. It didn't occur to me to not do it. She knew what she was talking about, and it's true. I wasn't really finding my place in fashion. Anytime I tried to show my work, I was being criticized as being too costumey, and I wanted everything to have a theme or a story. So I was doing theater. I just wasn't doing it in the right place, and so I don't really. And then it's just what I fell in love, and I loved the boundaries. As somebody who was in the art school, my biggest problem was when somebody would say, "Do whatever you want," and my mind goes blank when that happens. I need to know, and so the boundaries of theater, the physical space, the budget, the people, the script, like all of those boundaries, all the other designers, all the other collaborators, when the performers come in and what they're doing with their own characters. And I just, and then the playwright is there saying, this is why I wrote this. And I love those boundaries. I need to know what the boundary is. And then within that, I feel more empowered to create than I've ever felt with just a blank canvas. And so and the collaboration with the other people, just sitting with a blank canvas is very difficult. But there's other voices. I find it much more enjoyable. So that's how theater has really been part of my focus. Yep. At the there's the surface pieces. with regards to art supplies and things like that. But I really thought about this question. I need access. I need inclusion. I need a tech table. I mean, there's things, you get into the first day of tech, and there's a tech table for the lighting designer, and there's a tech table for the set designer. And then, I don't know, I think they're expecting me to run around backstage. And so I lately, my tools, I've always needed them. I just haven't always asked for them. And so I want that inclusion. I want that accessibility. I want the tech table. I want the paid labor support. Those are the tools that are important because they involve other people. And so I need I need equity in the support that I'm getting as a costume designer that the other design departments are getting. And I didn't always ask for that because I spent a long time believing that I was just lucky to have a job. And so I run a wage equity group, and we also focus on labor equity. And we talk about these things very openly now and are trying to fix. For me personally, I don't know about the other members that are running the group, but me personally, I can speak for, and I'm trying to undo the 20 years of me agreeing to lesser terms and setting that as what was expected as the people that came behind me. And so I need to fix that because that wasn't right. I made it look possible and enjoyable to do 25 shows in a year when it wasn't. And it's just this kind of idea that you can do it all and you have to do it all by yourself and accept less money. And so I'm trying to fix that. I owe it. It's my fault. Yeah. Well, I will talk about how I landed my first gig because I still feel that this is a good way to go. Well, two first experiences. One was while I was in undergraduate school and working in the costume shop. And again, I would take on any extra work I could get. And the woman was also, in the summer, she was the lead designer for the Handel Opera Festival in Germany. And so she designed these lavish, incredible Baroque opera costumes. And then she brought in people to build them in the shop where we were for the university. And then they would pack them all up and fly to Germany. And I was there working late one night on this. I asked to have some overhire work from that. And I overheard her assistant say, "I can't do this anymore. This is my last year." And oh my gosh, if I had had headphones on, if I hadn't been there. And so I try to tell my students about this now, that you should really pay attention to those side conversations, because that could open doors and then ask for it when you want it. And so I went. I barely slept that night, but I sent an email early in the morning and said, "I'd love to meet with you. I want to ask you about something." And so I went to her, and I went with kind of a proposal. I had written out my notes, and I said, "I've never wanted anything more than to go to Germany with you as your assistant. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it looks like, and I don't know the language. But I have never wanted anything more in my life." And so she said, give me a few hours, or, go get lunch or something. I forget. But so I came back and saw her later, and she had laid out a whole plan for how I would be her assistant the following year. And it included getting a job at the Santa Fe Opera, because she said if I could survive that costume shop, I could survive anything she would throw at me. And then when I came back in the fall, I needed to take a German class because one of us needed to speak the language, and it wasn't going to be her. So I never realized that she had been going all those years, but she wasn't speaking the language. And just a few other things, but it was all reasonable, and I wanted it, and I asked for it, and I'm glad that I did, and I'm glad that she said yes. And so I try to remember that when somebody's coming to me young So I was very young at the time. I was 19, 20. So, and I spent 5 years as her assistant, and I did it all through the rest of undergraduate and grad school. And part of it also involved being a month ahead in my coursework. I had to leave in April every year and build an opera. You know? I'm glad I was young when I did that. I can't really wrap my head around it now, but when I got to Chicago, I went there because New York felt too. I wanted to be able to make eye contact and smile at people on the street. It's really that basic, and I didn't feel like I could do that in New York City. Whenever I was there, I felt less confident, and so I knew I needed to be someplace that I was confident. And I felt Chicago, with over 100 theaters at any given time, if I couldn't make my career work there, then maybe I needed to find something else to do because there were so many theaters. And so I moved to Chicago, and at the time, all the theaters were listed in this alphabetical order, and the League of Chicago Theaters, and I started calling them. And when I got to L, I finally got somebody to agree to meet with me. But I had to get through the alphabet to L. And my trick was, I would say, I'd like to bring you my resume, because of course everybody was just like, oh, mail us your resume. I was like, I'll bring it to you. And it was, took me a while, but I finally got somebody to agree to let me bring them my resume. And then while I was there, I had my portfolio with me, of course. And so it was my way of kind of convincing them to just please look at me. Because on paper, I haven't been doing this very long, but in person, I want it. And I needed them to see me wanting it and to see how I dialogue. And I just felt that I represented myself better in person than I did on paper at the time. And so I used that philosophy for quite a while, and I think I still do that. Kind of force people to meet with me. But because and I want people to make sure that they also want to work with me, to make sure that we're all feeling connected. Because it's a lot of time to spend together. And sometimes it's very personal stories or difficult subject matter. And I think it's important that you're with the right people, that you want to work with them. So it was a long way of answering a question. Okay. Ooh. What is my process? If I don't know as many people, I try to get to know everybody. I like to ask, why are we doing this show? Why are we doing this production? Like, what's the instinct behind it? Because I can read the script, and I do read the script, but why was this chosen? Why was it chosen now? And so just learning that will help me then, when I reread the script, kind of help have that filter of their passion for it when I read it again. I really like to, as in the role of costume designer, I like to get to know the performers, because they're spending much more time with those characters than I ever will. And so I need to know how they see the characters, how they see their own personal comfort. Feet, I start with feet. I think everybody feeling comfortable in their feet and grounded and planted, or however they want to stand physically, really helps a lot of other things. I like watching rehearsals whenever allowed. And so I always ask permission. You should never just walk into a rehearsal. But I like to watch, because a lot of times performers, they'll wear something to rehearse in that is actually very informative of the character, especially in contemporary pieces. But even in period pieces, there's something about the way people dress themselves that I find very fascinating. And so watching them develop those characters and watch them go through the process. So I watch rehearsals, always, talking to everybody else involved, but lots of communication. And theater is the art of storytelling and communicating, but it can't just happen from the stage to the audience or from the found space to the audience. It has to happen with everybody else first. Otherwise, I think it really shows in the final product if that wasn't there. And so I think it's important to be in the room, and sometimes you have to remind people that, you have a spot at the table. And so getting that spot at the table. Another part of my process now is reading the script and finding out if I'm even the right person for the show. And that's not everybody can do that, and I respect that, but I'm in a position where I can, because I spent a very long time not saying no to things, and now I realize that there's things I should say no to, and maybe I know somebody else that would be a better fit for this story, that I'm actually sitting in their place at the table that they should be occupying, and so that's in recent years. Yes, this is a hard one, because of where we are right now historically. I spent a year. I've been in the Williamsport, Pennsylvania area for 5 years now since leaving Chicago, working at the university level, and so participating in that process as much as possible, getting the students to be the designers instead of myself, because oh wow, their ideas. Nothing pleases me more than somebody coming up with an idea I didn't come up with, and helping them figure out how to get it onto stage. That excites me so much, and it's probably because there's several shows on my resume that I've designed multiple versions of, and I would really like to see somebody else's version of it, and so just working with students a lot has been kind of my focus right now. In my free time, I did some scenic painting at Cobalt Studios in upstate New York. I took one of their scenic intensive courses. I still have that desire for art school in me. And so I did that. And then the year before, I went to the Art Institute in Chicago in the summer and took a digital fabrication, like how to integrate digital fabrication into the design process. And so I learned about 3D printing and all that kind of stuff to see if it was even something I wanted to. I don't know. If I'm not interacting with the technology, the students are not interacting with the technology, and that's a disservice to them. And more in the costume shop, sewing machines are being replaced by 3D printers. And so I needed to learn that, and because that the luxury of keeping up with technology is not something you can do when you're freelance and out of pocket for everything. And so, and because it changes so much and it's expensive every time it changes. And so, so I took some time to do that, and figured out an art commission for a private event that allowed 3D printing to be part of the art that I had proposed. So I could get a 3D printer and put it in the costume shop and show my students how to use it. And so it all worked out. And so I try to do that. But right now, I'm working on transitioning between 2 jobs, and they have a season waiting to see how we're going to do it. I'm planning several courses on the history, cultural, spiritual of masks, because I think in theater we might have to look at mask work again for many reasons. And I personally love the history of masks. It's not often that we work with them anymore, and culturally they've been removed from a lot of people, and so trying to look at that and find space for that again, and to study the masks and why, and then figure out kind of a modern version of that in theater. And so I think we might have to look at doing some mask work again. And so I'm looking at it right now, as well as kind kind of developing courses around the business of being in the arts. I spent several years running a small private company that I founded in Chicago. And I didn't get my business degree prior to that, but I can tell you that you pay for your business degree, whether you're getting it in real life at a school, or you're getting it because you opened a company and you didn't know what you're doing. But I love talking about 1099s and W-4s and the difference in contracts and contract negotiation and all of the things that go into running yourself as a business and being in the arts and being a freelancer, and what to look out for and best practices and that kind of stuff. And so I'm developing that as well. And so I think I guess I'm in a large, I don't know, a large emotional trust fall with regards to theater right now. And just working on what I can and staying hopeful. But we've been leveled. I mean, the rug was pulled out from under everybody. And my wage equity group, before all of this happened, we had been talking about, burn it all down. And then this thing happened where it all burnt down, and it wasn't what we're talking about. But when we come back, how do we want to return? What can we do in this time to think of ways to be sustainable, not just in business, but environmentally? How can we be more conscious? How can we actually, all that talk about diversity and inclusion, how are we actually going to do it now, as opposed to just talking about it or getting one or two people every now and then to make it look like we are? So now that everything's been leveled and burnt to the ground and rugs pulled out from under, where do we rebuild? What growing out of that forest fire are we going to cultivate and water and make sure that it has the sunlight that it needs and the energy and the attention? And so I'm really, really interested in that, because I don't think we can or should go back to the way things were. And we've been given this very aggressive slap. And I think we need to refocus and regroup and really talk about that. And I don't think I actually have the ideas or the answers. I would love to hear what the younger generations want, what they need, because I'm in a position where I can help amplify the voices. I can help find funding. I can help provide the platform, but I don't think I should be the person standing on it. And so I'm trying to find ways to connect and open up conversations with the future and how I can help them. So, the people, the stories. Yeah, because the stories are ultimately about people, or even if it's animals, there's still, why the story was written, how it was written, the language, how we can verbally, visually communicate. And so it's really the stories and the people. And sometimes it's just the characters, just the individual characters, and just thinking about how they're living in this make-believe, but then we're putting it into real, just so many layers of identity with regards to the person who wrote it, to the actual characters, then to the performers bringing those characters to life. I love all those layers. And then if I'm lucky enough to be part of it, because I enjoy seeing theater as much as I enjoy doing it. And yeah, if I'm lucky enough to be part of that, it's just really wonderful. So, yeah. Oh, um, it's changed over the years. Early on, I would have said the pay. I probably would still say the pay. But the pay. And then, nobody ever forgets their first time they find out that everybody else in the room is being paid more. And then the labor equity was also a least favorite part for a long time. A lot of times theaters are using borrowed, found rehearsal spaces, and I would haul all the costumes there, and then I would haul all the costumes away, and then wait for tech, and then haul them all into tech. And I know that happens to lighting and sound designers as well, that they have a lot of equipment that they're asked to use as well. But I've never seen a set designer have to bring the whole set in for a fitting and then take it back out again. And they usually have somebody else there helping them with it. And so I'm trying to fix that for other people and for myself as well. And it starts with advocating. But I still have to recognize, in all of my displeasure with that over the years, I had the ability to do it. And so I had a car that I could put gas in and pay for the insurance on, that I could haul all these costumes around in. I had the connections to the other theaters because I had multiple contracts at multiple times to then borrow or rent from them. And so I was able to operate at the level I was operating because I had these resources. And so recognizing that if I had had the lack of those resources, I would not have had a career. And so how many people are not able to choose this as a career because of those barriers? And so how do we fix that so they're able to choose to do this as well? So I would say that's still my least favorite, is the roadblocks for other people. Oh my gosh. Lots of funny, lots of weird. But I would hate to think that I would tell a story at the expense of somebody else. So I'm trying to think of, this one I wrote notes down to most of them, but I could not think of something. You always hear great stories. There's always all the great stories of theater. But they almost always come at somebody else having a really bad day. I can't think of anything. When I worked at Santa Fe Opera that summer, I talked about, and then I'll be honest, I never worked there again. It really is a difficult place to work. They do a lot in a short amount of time. And things have improved since then as well. But you'd work in the shop during the day, and then once the shows were up and running, you would work backstage at night. And I got several wardrobe assignments were better than others, but one of my best one was I was backstage at the Marriage of Figaro. And my job was to hand a cape off and make sure it looked nice on her, and with the hood all perfectly placed and everything. And it was right after a beautiful aria. And so I'm standing in the stage wings, very close to the curtain, almost just barely visible to the audience, but I knew if they could see me, I could see them, all that kind of stuff. And so it felt like I was on stage at the Santa Fe Opera. And the orchestra and oh my gosh, just the overwhelming beauty of it. But and the person I was helping dress is a very well-known singer. And whenever that aria went really well for her. And of course, every time I heard it, I thought it was amazing, but she knew the difference. I didn't. Just the way she would walk off stage, just like a swagger, but in this period costume and all this kind of stuff, just she would go from being the character on stage to being herself in the wings, where she was feeling really great about what she had just done. And it wasn't necessarily funny, but it was wonderful. And I'm glad that the whole time I was dressing that person that I didn't know who they were, because I probably would have been much more nervous if I had known how famous this person was. But I was young and dumb, and I was just there because I wanted to go to Germany the next year. So I wasn't paying attention to anything other than just getting through it. But yeah, she had this way of just looking like, that she just scored a touchdown. And it was really fun. And it made up for all the other long hours, lack of sleep and stress of working on, fabrics that cost more than anything I've ever owned. So, yeah. Read the contract, get the contract, read the contract. And if you're not sure, ask. Always ask. And anything, not just with regards to contract, ask. I think some of the best conversations have always started with really good questions. And so write your list of questions down and really ask, because the more you understand, the better it will be. But also by asking, and sometimes those questions are difficult, but by asking somebody to tell you why they're paying you as much as they are, or why this story is important, sometimes it helps them also maybe improve or see something that they weren't quite seeing before. I think people are much more open to questions than they are to tellings. But definitely ask, challenge the people in positions of leadership. Because I think, that it needs to happen. It needs to happen more. There's a lot of great questions that can be asked right now with regards to theater and theater leadership and what's coming. But when it comes to just the small things in the script, why did she say that to him, or those kind of things, I think all of those questions are great, and it allows for the conversation to kind of open up. It allows you to be part of the conversation too. Yeah. When I was in school, it was always whoever's the most prepared for the first production meeting will win. And I can't say I'm necessarily teaching that now. I'm teaching a revised version of that, because it really isn't about winning. I would never want a critic or an audience member or anybody to walk away just raving about my work, because then it wasn't part of the story. If it stood out that much, then where else did we fail? And so I think whoever comes to the first production meeting, I think everybody should come to the meetings having read the script and being prepared, but having questions rather than always the answers, because the answers will get in the way sometimes. If you have all the answers, sometimes it gets in the way of discovering really great new things. And so I try not to be fully designed. I try not to have because I haven't met this cast yet, so allowing kind of that open mind. And I think an open mind involves a lot of question marks more than it does exclamation points. And so, yeah. Oh, well, to the world as somebody who is in theater, thank you. We could never call ourselves first responders, because I wouldn't want to do that to the medical community and to people that are dealing with real urgency right now. But we are there, offering art, offering help, offering. And so we are responding. So maybe we're second responders. And I want to say from what I've seen, we've been really well received, that people have looked to the arts right now. And it's not in the way that they normally would or normally had, or maybe they hadn't engaged at all prior. But people are taking online museum tours right now, and they're going to, they're streaming events, and they're participating in conversations around art and everything. And thank you for looking to the arts when you needed hope, when you needed help, when you needed love, when you needed compassion. Like, thank you for recognizing that the arts can provide that. And we're not going to stop providing it. And as somebody who does theater, I can tell you that there's a lot of us that, like with your question earlier, we can't stop. It's something that we have to do. And so that keeps me hopeful. And then, just seeing what rises to the top and what gains traction and energy. But overall, thank you to the world for recognizing that need.